Revcast, a civilization podcast focused on its console platforms. Grayson.
El Thrasher.
The Headless 10.
Have you guys ever seen anyone build a caravan in an online game? Because I have.
I played.
Okay.
But other than that, I have never built a caravan in the online game.
No.
I'm joined by Matt.
Hello.
A.K.A. El Thrasher. And then our new regular co-host, Rob, the Headless 10.
How's it going? There's head-to-head Civ Rev tourneys going on right now at forums.2kgames.com.
We're trying to get 8 separate 8-man brackets. All the winners of each bracket qualify for the final bracket. It's like a really long knockout tournament.
Yeah, but if you do get knocked out, then you can play another one.
You don't have to be the best, but it helps.
CivRev has now been released for the iPad.
Which none of us have.
CivRev is available now for $12.99 at the iTunes store.
Oh, bargain.
Yeah.
I paid $50 for it.
Yeah. For the iPad version, it's most similar to the DS and iPhone versions, though there are a few changes.
Upgrades, really.
First off is the graphics are a little better than what you'll see on the iPhone and the DS, and that's mainly because you're moving it out to a bigger and wider screen. The interface is a little bit more different, and it looks a little better. But the big new thing that came out for CivRev for the iPad is the scenario creator, which I wish 2K would just go ahead and release that for DLC. I'd pay a couple bucks for it.
Oh, yeah. Especially if you could use it online. That'd be awesome.
The scenario creator is supposed to let you edit the maps and years and different things like that. All these people on the PC that we're talking about, I don't like CivRev because, it actually has an ending. Why can't you do one more turn, or why can't you just make the game go on forever? This kind of solves the problem. Get CivRev for iPad. I personally don't think I'd want a CivRev game to go on forever. I like the fast pace of it. But I do think a map editor could have a lot of different applications, and I would pay money for that. So if anybody actually listens to this, take note, because that sounds really cool. Especially from what we see online, we don't see a lot of people using legions.
I think it makes a lot of sense because almost everybody starts off in the single-player arena. And if you play single-player, most of our listeners have probably experienced this, the AI will send one non-vet legion army with 6 attack at you halfway through the game, and it won't do anything. So it just kind of seems like legions are really stupid units that don't have any good use. But if you get a bunch of them fast, and you can just overwhelm somebody.
Right. Legions are one of my favorite units because they're so cheap. They hit as hard as horsemen, and you can just amass 5-10 Legion units and go out and just take whatever city you want in the early game. They're a very good option.
They're also great for defense. You don't need the middle legions. You need bronze working first, which is a basic 20 beacon type that gives you archers, and then you need iron working after that, which is a 30 beaker type, which has conveniently enough bronze working as its prerequisite. So you need nearly 50 beakers worth of tech to get iron working and start making legions. And at that point, legions replace warriors in your build queue, but they cost the same and have twice as much attack, which is why we like them so much, because it's such a huge jump from warrior to legion. I use them if I need to kill some armies that are coming at me. Maybe I've lost my horse army or armies, or maybe they're in the wrong place, or maybe I never built them or something like that, and somebody's sending horse armies at me. The inexperienced player there would probably try to have an archer army in every city, but in addition to being expensive, that's not necessarily going to work. If you have legion armies and a horse army comes up and then you kill it, then problem solved, and you can continue to defend with your legions, or you might get aggressive with them. The other time that I would use legions in a competitive game, in a game I'm worried about losing, would be maybe if I can't expand very much, or if my opponent's really expanding a lot, and I just need to go on the attack, and I don't have mathematics yet. It's going to take too long to get catapults, so building a bunch of legion armies is going to be faster and hit harder.
5 legion armies will take a city. Any city.
3 will usually do the trick.
Usually.
Just watch out for Aztecs.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Not a good time to use legions.
Right.
But obviously, a Civ that has fundamentalism is a really good match for legions because now they have 3 attack instead of 2 attack. So your army has 9 attack, or it has 13.5 if it's veteran, which is a fairly strong attack. Now you're getting to the place where 1 army might take down an archer army, and 2, it's pretty much guaranteed. They're fairly popular to use with the Romans, too, because the Romans can build those cheap roads and link up legion armies really fast, get a bunch of little cities out pretty quickly, and get a whole lot of legion armies together quite fast.
There's been good talk using them with the Spanish, too, because they have the galleon to deliver them. Build them anywhere and then just toss them on the boat and unload them at will to whatever city looks vulnerable with your scout militia in the boat.
The one thing I would add, if I'm just losing really, really badly, and it's early in the game, I usually don't quit a game until I just try 1 Legion rush. The other guy's just blowing me away in tech, and I've only got 2, 3, 4 cities, and the other guy's got 10. Just for the heck of it, I've got nothing to lose. That's kind of your best kitchen sink that you can throw early in the game, because horsemen are expensive, especially when you're broke in the ancient era or early medieval. But legions, they can just pop out of nowhere, and in a matter of 5-10 turns, you might be able to have a solid attacking force to somebody.
Especially if you manage to get together a barracks.
I was going to say, do you usually build a barracks, or do you usually just slap together the legion armies?
Well, in the early game, I don't build the barracks. Later on, if I'm doing like a Roman legion rush or an Indian legion rush, a Civ where I'm having legions in mind most of the time anyways, if I'm losing, I don't do the barracks. I'm just trying to get something out there quick. But if I'm planning on, okay, this is how I want to win the game and not necessarily losing, but I just want to rush the other guy and have a good attack, I'm going to build the barracks because it's way better to have the 9 attack than the 6 attack.
No, we kind of touched on it, but like horse armies or knight armies are coming at you. Sometimes a legion army is about all you can have. Maybe you're on a hill and you can make a quick legion army, and maybe then the English night rush where there's only 1 or 2 armies that you need to kill and take them down. And compared to the investment of hammers and beakers that they put in to what you put in, you're going to be in a good spot, and they're going to be quitting out in frustration.
If you've got like a forward city that's on a hill, so those legions, even if they're not veteran, they're going to get the hill bonus on their attack. So they're going to have 9 attack. That's going to be pretty good if you can catch those knight armies. And now, if your opponent's English, you probably don't want to take those 2 legion armies you made and go on the attack because it's not going to get you anywhere. Keep them on defense. It's good defense. Now you're good up until modern, pretty much. I'd probably use them for defense more than anything else.
It's fun to try. I don't know if you ever do it. Just feel like, I'm going to legion rush this game and just do it.
It is fun. I would say that probably a lot of the time, if attack with legions, there are probably other avenues to winning. I've probably had 1 or 2 games where it ended up working out as a Hail Mary. Right. But a lot of the time, it's probably I could have gone and got knights or catapults or tanks even and done it that way. But it is a little bit more fun with legions, and people aren't going to expect it. With like when you unload 5 legion armies next to a city or something, and the guy's like, this isn't good.
I can remember the first time it happened against me, and kind of it's like deer in the headlight thing where you can see him coming. It's like, I don't know what I'm going to do at this point. Like, I'm not going to make an archer army. I can't really make any army to kill it yet. What do you do? And they can just walk them across and take a couple cities.
It's really not a common tactic at all.
So after you win a few games with legions, come back and thank us. We've made allusions to Indian Legion Rush, and I think now's a good time to introduce our Civ of the month, which will be the Indians.
Is it?
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite Civs, too. It's like a new game every time.
I like the diversity. I also like that it's not necessarily a Civ that's going to get the game over with in Ancient. It might be a little bit of a longer game.
Well, you haven't played my Indians, have you?
Well...
Forget fundamentalism.
Yeah, you don't get that until medieval, though. So.
No, but I get what you're saying.
It's not like the Arabs or the Aztecs. You might really be setting out to win the game in the Ancient era and not worry about expansion or teching at all. But with the Indians, I mean, that's got to be somewhere on the brain because they're not that awesome in Ancient.
Right.
They're weakest, and yeah.
Compared to a lot of other Civs, they're not that bad.
No, they're not bad.
And so let's tell people why that is. Starting out, they begin the game with access to all resources. In the Ancient, their cities are not affected by anarchy. Medieval, they get the knowledge of religion. Industrial, they construct settlers at half price. And in modern, they get half-price courthouses. Big thing is they begin the game with access to all resources, and then they also do cities not affected by anarchy.
Anarchy, you don't think of it very often until you actually play them, especially if you get perhaps the Anglo Wat for a pyramid where you have access to all governments. But even without it, throughout the game, you're just, okay, now I want to make a settler, so I'll go to Anarchy and switch to Republic. And next turn I want to attack, so I'll go to Anarchy and switch to Fundamentalism.
Mm-hmm. It's really useful, but it does bear mentioning that unless you find Angkor Wat or somehow get a government early in the game, it doesn't actually help you in the ancient era to have that bonus. It doesn't really help you until medieval when you get the religion. And even then, if your two governments are despotism and fundamentalism, you're probably not going to be switching back and forth a whole lot. Maybe we should talk about what access to all resources means.
Oh, definitely.
In Civ Rev, there's special resources that give bonuses above the 2 hammers that trees provide, the 2 apples that grasslands provide, and the 2 beakers, or actually, Erlenmeyer flasks that sea tiles provide. That's what they actually are. Special tiles, like with dye, would give you 5 trade. A tile with oak gives you 5 production, or a composite tiles like a whale gives you 4 food and 2 trade. The Indians get to use all these special tiles at the start, but it ramps up. You get just a +1 bonus at the start, and then +2 when you get into medieval, +3 at industrial, +4 in modern. If the bonus goes that high, it doesn't exceed whatever the bonus should give you.
For example, a whale would give you 2 beakers, or Erlenmeyer flasks, I'm sorry. 2 beakers and 1 apple in ancient. In medieval, you get 2 beakers and 2 apples. And in industrial, you get 2 beakers, 3 apples. Modern, you get 2 beakers and 4 apples.
The other thing is that you will always spawn next to a special resource.
Oh, yeah.
When you play the Indians, no other civ will spawn next to one. So you'll always be able to take advantage of that at the start of the game if you settle in place, as long as you don't move to a space that doesn't have any special resources.
One other thing, which I guess you can think, guess if you're listening to Revcast, and if you happen to not read 2K forums religiously, is you can settle on top of those resources and get a one-time boost. So if you settle on top of a production resource, you can get 10 hammers right away. Or if you settle on top of a trade resource, you get 10 gold. A culture resource, you get 10 culture, just for one turn. Wouldn't recommend it that often, but if you're moving your settler several turns at the beginning of the game, it's a great way to settle rush somebody.
Better with your second or third city, not your settler as much.
I've had discussions with people who don't think the Indians are very good. You're going to be an ancient for 20 or 30 turns, and so all that adds up. I love getting an oak resource to start.
Or a rubber.
If not a production one, then a growth one. Cattle is good, or wheat, because then your capital can be a really good settler pump at the start of the game because you can grow up in 4 turns.
I don't mind starting next to dye either. I prefer it in my later cities, but...
Yeah, dye is great for the Indians. It's really good.
Even for that first horse rush, speeds it up a little.
What is the first 10, 20 turns of y'all's games, or basically even the ancient era in general? What do you guys do online or against single player with the Indians?
First 5 turns, you're sending out 2 warriors, almost always.
Or 4 turns if you have a production resource.
Exactly. Already it's paid for itself.
I'm going to send out 2 warriors to pick up gold, then I'm going to research horseback riding, and then I'm going to kick out some horsemen to hopefully take some capitals or kill my enemy or whatever they're going to be able to do.
Kill barbs and head-to-head.
Yeah, take a lot of gold off the map. That's what horses are good for, too. And then after that, I want to hopefully have my 100 gold city, and I'm going to look for good resources to settle on. Like to settle on whale and dye, because now you got a city that does 5 trade and has a little bit of growth. And as soon as you get to medieval, it's going to be 6 trade and actually decent growth. Looking for maybe a city with production resources, too, if I don't already have that in Delhi. If I'm kind of safe, I want to expand out to probably 5 or 6 cities at that point.
Do you usually settle a production city in Ancient?
Yeah.
Yeah? I think I tend to wait more till I have like a 3-pop and maybe I can touch on a little more. Maybe that's just me, but I usually...
No, I tend to save the production cities at least until I'm 3-pop. But it depends. If that's my closest one that I've got, then I'll do it. But even a production city can still help out with pushing more settlers out. But I'd still rather my production city to be a unit production city to get a barrison for a bigger force. I'm sure it can work either way. If you just need to push more and more horsemen out, which sometimes that's what the game calls for.
I mean, I could take some time and grow it. Maybe I'll get irrigation or something like that.
Right.
I want to have a city anywhere there's oak or rubber for sure. It doesn't necessarily have to be all about production all the time. Just having that there is going to help me at some point in the game.
but I guess I don't use my resources so much in the Ancient. I don't find that the resources...
I'm crawling all over those things because it makes each city 25% better, so if I have 4 of them there, then that's like another city.
Well, I'm still settling. I'm still trying to settle as much as I can, but I'm not really feeling the big boost from them until I get to the medieval and then later on to the industrial.
Have you ever gotten a real game benefit, like it helps you to win by settling near rubber with any other civ? Rubber, by the way, needs automobile.
Yeah.
How many times have you researched automobile? Can I ask you that?
Well, online, hardly ever.
I can think of once.
Yeah, there's a lot of resources that you just never reach in the online game, and if you did, the game would be pretty much decided by that point, or hey, you wouldn't get to use it for too long, but it's nice. Sometimes with the Indians, you can just build some giant production cities with those hill resources coupled with forest or rubber.
Especially if you get a workshop. I've had a few Indian games where I hammer out the East India Company or something like that fairly early in the game without any trouble.
Let me ask you this. Do you usually backfill text to try and get all your 20s to push into medieval, or do you go slower, maybe you're in 10 science a turn to just limp your way into medieval and get better bonus?
It just depends on the game. Getting to the medieval is a good thing for them because that's a strong bonus that they get in the medieval. They get religion. I still prefer to use kind of a backfill method where I work on gold for a little while and try to settle 4, 5, 6 cities in the ancient era if I can do it quickly, and work on gold in all my cities that I'm not working on settlers. And then once I'm making 21 gold per turn, then I switch to science, and then that usually will push you into the medieval from backfilling all the 20 beaker text.
That's what I normally set out to do, but I find it's not too infrequent that, okay, so I'm researching horseback riding on purpose, and I'm probably getting bronze working at some point, either by stealing it from someone or researching it myself. Maybe I got pottery out of a barber. Maybe I attacked somebody and I got ceremonial burial. Now I have 4 techs. I can do 10 science per turn or something like that. Why not just get alphabet?
Mm-hmm.
Now I got religion. Now all my extra resources are +2 instead of +1. And yeah, the cost to rush things goes up. So if I want to rush some more horsemen, or if I want to rush a galley, or if I want to rush some legions or something like that, or settlers, try to take care of that ahead of time. But I'm not going to delay getting to medieval very much. I'd like to get there sooner because getting fundamentalism is a huge boost. Getting the extra resources, bonuses, is very, very nice. And my new cities will be 3 population, which is always good. If Arabs aren't in the game, then there's the first to research bonus for religion, which is +1 culture per city. Icing on the cake. It's just extra good. No reason not to get that as soon as possible.
If you got 4 or 5 cities, all of a sudden, instead of making 5 culture per turn, you're making 10, and you're all of a sudden a great culture civ. On top of you're getting fundamentalism, which means you can be a bully now, and plus you got access to all these resources. Starting with the medieval era, you've really gone from a civ that, yeah, they can use some resources and get a little boost out of them, to all of a sudden, you're a freaking well-rounded civ that can do a lot of things. Usually civs only get 1 little boost in the medieval, and that's it, but they get a 3 or 4-fold boost from just jumping to the medieval. So I can understand why you'd want to just go ahead and get there, but I wouldn't say I've got 1 or 2 cities, let me spend 5, 6, 7 turns just researching.
I'm talking about if it's going to be just a couple turns or maybe even 4 turns to get there. If I'm at 1 or 2 techs, then I'm probably going to try to get more settlers out before I do anything else.
Especially if you're researching prerequisites for, like, code of laws anyway. You can just earn alphabet to push yourself along. Why not? Only a couple other civs do I do that with. Maybe the Germans, and maybe Americans, but who else do you not really backfill with?
Chinese.
Well, we won't talk about them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also transitioning from the ancient to the medieval, do you guys ever think about, well, I am going to get religion, should I build a bunch of cheap units? And then once I get to the medieval, it switch to fundamentalism and go attack.
Again, I'm not too concerned about getting a whole lot of building done before medieval, because as soon as I hit medieval, I've already settled the oak and the rubber and the aluminum and the whatever else. The costs of things go up, but I have extra production, so I can build these things more easily.
Right.
So I'm not going to delay it just to rush a couple legion armies. I might take a couple turns out and build up some gold turns, rush legions for a couple turns, and then tech forward.
If I don't have a good production resource, I often do it. If it's a losing game, I'll do it.
Yeah. Also, if I need a galley, if I know where an artifact is or something like that, that's when I can get that thing done in Ancient.
Oh, yeah.
Cost of it goes up to 90 gold.
Once you know where that artifact is, go for it.
So now you're in the medieval, and you've got all these things we mentioned.
Game over.
That's it. Quit right now.
The Indians win, but that's not really the case. So let's talk about the option to be in fundamentalism. You've usually got +1 culture per turn per city. You've got another boost in your resources. You're doing +2 now instead of +1 in your resources. So what does the medieval look like for you guys?
I want 10 cities.
Yeah, 10 cities is a good number. You asked if you build units in Ancient, and the only ones I really build, besides like a horse army or two, are settlers. But then once you hit medieval, you can actually start picking a path. Maybe you do a Legion Rush. I tend to pick a tech that I think that I can get, maybe navigation for a free galleon or something, and try and exploit my advantage while I have it. You get a little stronger in industrial, but medieval, most civs are not very strong. That's when you're trying to bring the hammer if you can.
Oftentimes, I'm looking for that production city right at the beginning, and then legions, if you can span them out for 10 hammers apiece and have them be vet and then attack in fundamentalism, I mean, that's like for
Pretty sweet.
Or you can keep pumping out horsemen if you want, or catapults for protection or for rushing.
Or you use all that production for building settlers.
Yep.
Yeah.
A 2-population city with oak and fish or whale or something like that. Once you get into Code of Laws, that thing is making a new settler for you for free every 5 turns. You can speed it up with money, of course, but that's pretty good.
The other thing I would add about getting fundamentalism is it's not only good for attack, it's good for defense.
Yeah.
If somebody's coming at you in the medieval, a good thing to do with the Indians is just to go ahead and switch into fundamentalism, and then if you have counterattacking units, you can easily swap people away, or even sometimes your archers. An archer army will have 6 attack. It's not too bad for defensive ratings of what the early offensive units have.
Or even a warrior army.
Or a warrior army if you don't have legions, yeah.
The Indian archer army can be devastating.
People can go back and listen to our last episode of Revcast and listen about the Arabs and how to use fundamentalism as well for attacking.
Even easier with the Indians, though, because unaffected by anarchy bonus.
Almost every turn go to anarchy, depending. Especially if you have Republic and you're trying to make a settler every 5 turns. It keeps people on their toes. The only real bonus to stay in is democracy. It doesn't really help you to be in Republic or fundamentalism when you're not controlling the action.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
The Indians snowball like no other civ, I think. Once it starts rolling, it just is crazy.
You could be pretty bad off, and then all of a sudden, those growth resources start working, those trade resources start working. You've got fundamentalism, so you can attack and defend better. You've got culture coming, so you'll get that first great person and maybe in that second great person quicker than anybody else. And then you get to the industrial, you get settlers for 10 hammers. They're half-price settlers. It's not like the American bonus where you get a lower gold rushing cost. It's a lower hammer cost. But that works out to be pretty good because 10 hammers in the industrial, you're already getting boosts with the Indians with production trade just all across the map. And now you're giving us cheap settlers.
They're so cheap. Normally want to have about 10 cities in it medieval. If I have the space for them, and that's a really good reason to get navigation quickly, I'll probably have 20 within a few turns after hitting industrial.
But I've always found if I can make it to the industrial, it's going to be tough to kill me because if you take one of my cities, I'm going to build 2 more. If you take both of those, I'm still going to be pushing settlers out. But if you aren't hurting me, if you're not pressing me, then I'm going to build those cities everywhere. And I'm going to build the whole freaking map. I'm going to get +1 culture for all of them. I'm going to be using up all those resources. And all of a sudden, it is a giant snowball. And it is best just to fill up every piece of map you can as long as you have the patience to do it or the timer's not pressing you down. That could be the one problem is running out of time.
Smother your opponent to death.
Yeah.
You don't even need to attack them ever.
Who cares about losing 1 city when you got 30? And you can build another one for 10 hammers. Just pack those in. Pack some landlocked cities in. Most people don't do that, but it's great. Most of the best production cities are landlocked.
There in the industrial, it's still a good time to attack. I personally like catapults for the Indians more than knights just because the Indians don't get a bonus for knights. Their knights are just
Knights.
average. So catapults have the same attack as knights and they're cheaper and you can get them faster and they don't get wounded.
For me personally, in the industrial era, no problem. The extra 5 hammers isn't that much, and I like the mobility of knights.
I usually build both if I can.
But if you got to this point in the industrial area, it's kind of like choose your own adventure. Do you want to do knights? Do you want to wait for tanks?
10 cities, though.
Yeah.
What's the point of that? It might as well
I used to always do wonders, and I've recently switched to always doing some kind of, even a wall or something, just to bank hammers. I mean, are you banking more than 100? Not in very many places.
Right.
I'll just let it build the library or temple. Even though we like fundamentalism and we're spending much of the game in fundamentalism, you can still use the library by going to anarchy at the end of every turn. I'm not saying libraries are awesome or anything like that, but when you've got 40 extra hammers, might as well get one.
Well, in the modern era, they get half-price courthouse.
Certainly wouldn't want to build courthouses before then.
Yeah. If you have a super awesome city that's over 8 pops, that's going to get you closer to winning the game, then yeah, a courthouse would be fine.
Also, by modern, everyone has access to all the resources with just through technology, so you no longer have an advantage like you used to.
So how do you guys win the game normally with the Indians is what I'm getting at. If it's not in the modern, other than winning early with horse rushes.
For me, probably knights, catapults, and cruisers. I get to steam power, build a cruiser fleet, go to fundamentalism, load up all my armies, and go take somebody's capital, and it's game over. Because most people quit when they lose the capital. And arguably, I could be attacking a lot sooner, but I tend to really get caught up in expansion and...
It's fun to play with the Indians.
It's fun to play with the Indians, and I'm like, oh, that's such a good spot for a city.
Should we talk about Oxford bombers? I mean, it's definitely on my mind. I'm considering it, if not for me, then against him, to try and just get Oxford and obsolete the bombers. Don't let him get them. The catapults cruisers is nice, especially because steam isn't that hard to get. Following that tech path, maybe you have a couple great people, maybe one from invention. Steam power is a natural progression, and then on to industrialization.
I have a little bit of a lead, then I know I can do that, and then still back it up with bombers if I need to, but I don't usually need to.
For myself, it's a tough question to answer. I mean, because my Indian games are so varied. I would probably say knights, sometimes bombers, or just about anything. With a lot of cities either, but I mean, I can do that or the bombers, which if the game goes longer, it would be bombers. There's no single unit that I use.
It's very game dependent.
It's very game dependent, and the Indians are the most variable civ out of all of them. Every game is so different, and I think that's why all three of us really love the Indians. They're not as strong in their opening, and they're really strong throughout the middle of the game. That's a little unique for some civs. Y'all have any tips for playing against a good Indian player?
Get them early. When is that not good advice?
Yeah. The Indians, great civ, or the greatest civ?
The greatest.
So I'm going to answer that too, just because why not? It's fun to watch Gandhi get all mad at you and threaten war and destroying you.
I meant to talk about that. That's what people are always talking about on all the different forums. Why did they ruin Gandhi? Gandhi was a pacifist. He would never do this, and he's the biggest warmonger in the game. Well, it's because he gets fundamentalism medieval. And if you don't have defensive armies, if you're kind of weak at the time, he's going to declare war on you across the map because he'll switch into fundamentalism. People don't put those two together. That is it for episode 20. Is it 20?
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that.
One other thing.
The way out.
Go ahead.
It depends on who you are beyond that, I think.
The Germans can outproduce them.
China should be able to tech up ahead of the Indians. America should be able to out-expand them. The French should be able to have more baguettes.
Better wine.
Yeah.
For more information about Revcast, sibling channel Polycast, and Modcast, or about Polycast in general, log on to the series' official website, polycast.net. Record date April 30th, 2010.
Civilization Revolution, sound clips, copyright, Take-Two Interactive.
Copyright Civilized Communication at civcom.net.
Hipwa. Hui uashi rain. Not have oh, have a Hipwa. Hui uda plum fallum.
Hilary.
How be is not have have a laugh.
Kepte Race Pilari Peferame Voltar Kepte Race Voltar Peferam Pilari Kepte Race Voltar
Stop us up.
Is a dying.
Hey.
Kraken. Keesan. Kraken doge. Kepte Race Pilari Peferam Voltar Kepte Race Voltar Peferam Pilari Pefer Voltar in Pilari Kepte Race Pilari K.
Salome. Not a. Ooh, ooh, oh, you.